Hello, this is Marjorie coming to you. This is actually my first YouTube video, but I am inspired to come out and make this video due to the Eddie Long scandal, and now what has become the Creflo Dollar scandal and his defense of Eddie Long. And I have a different perspective about it, and I hope that you all are listening, especially those of you that are in church leadership, because I believe it's time to make some changes in church practices, and I'm really calling for a revolution. So bear with me in these next few minutes as I explain myself. We all know or are familiar with what happened with Eddie Long, and it has been spoken of kind of ad nauseum, maybe to some that's been spoken of ad nauseum, of, you know, whether he did it or didn't do it, and what kind of man Eddie Long may be. It's reported that he's paid $15 to $25 million in a settlement to the young men that brought the charges, and there's different reports. Some say it was an extra $10 million tacked on to the 15 because the agreement was that if Eddie Long came out publicly and confessed what he did, then he would pay 15. But if not, the agreement was that he would pay an extra $10 million for everybody to keep quiet about it. So that's what's been reported. Not so sure, but what's $25 million anyway when you have it like that, I suppose. But just in saying $25 million that somebody had to pay in a church-related scandal makes you kind of wonder and think that maybe we just need to re-examine our giving practices and just practices in general in the church. And why do we have $25 million to just blow like that? I don't understand. So we have that, and then we have the scandal of Creflo Dollar then coming out to defend his friend, and that in of itself may not have been the transgression. Hey, with friends like that, I guess you can't buy friends like that. Maybe you can, I don't know. I'll just scrap what I just said. But, you know, if you have friends like that, then, you know, good for you. However, the transgression came when Mr. Dollar took it a step further and told, well, number one, that Eddie Long had nothing but a wreck. In that sense, we have had more wrecks, then who are we to judge Eddie Long because he had a wreck, and you're going to leave the preacher for a wreck? And God forbid, you know, you want to leave me if I have, I mean, just the whole metaphor of a wreck and describing what happened with Eddie Long is intellectually dishonest and insulting. I'm just going to put that out there, Mr. Dollar. It's an oversimplification of a much larger issue and issues that are still spiraling and still having domino effects for people all over the world who were supporters of New Birth, and not just of New Birth, but the pastors that were asking their congregation to support New Birth, and even the ones that weren't. Now all of a sudden are getting a side glance like, well, where's our money? You know, are we handling our money right? And yeah, it does seem kind of weird that I'm struggling paying my light bill every month, and you're driving around in a couple of Mercedes. So there's so much that is are consequential things that have come out that cannot be put just under a wreck. So that's number one, Mr. Dollar. Number two, the bigger transgression is telling anybody who was at your church from new birth that if they were there, that you didn't want them there, and that they need to go back to where they should be due to the fact that Eddie Long is your friend and you support him, and I don't know, what was the crime that they deserved that type of rhetoric from you? It sounded very mean. It sounded uncaring. It sounded unloving. I'm not sure when you're called to love, and that's the greatest commandment. Jesus said that's the greatest commandment. How love was exemplified in anything you said to them that day. I'm going to let that pause for a second, because it sounded absolutely atrocious, and I think that could possibly be one of the worst sermon addresses I've heard in a very, very long time, and I've heard quite a few. But and for someone of your influence makes it all the more, it just makes it all the worse. So I'm not sure how you fix that, Mr. Dollar. Possibly you can come out and apologize for what was said, try to clarify what was said, because I just believe nobody deserves to hear that when they're already wounded, and you basically just threw them back out on the street and shut the door. That's what it sounded like. Since we want to use metaphors, and you want to use metaphors like a wreck, well, you threw the sheep out, and we don't know how wounded they really were and how tormented they were with the decision to leave. If they made a decision to leave, maybe they made a decision, maybe they weren't. If they were on the fence, they're probably not now, since you made it very clear that you didn't want them there. So I'm not going to spend a lot more time on that. So we talked about Eddie Long, we talked about Creflo Dollar, we talked about the scandal, but I believe it culminated into something that probably has been going on for a while, but the measure of exposure just hasn't been there as it has in these past 6 months. So thank God for the exposure, because I believe there's some things to be learned for all of us. I think for church leadership, it's just time out, however, for trying to be a sideline type of person. You're not going to have an opinion about it. You're going to tiptoe around it. You're not going to say anything about it because it's Eddie Long and it's Creflo Dollar, and you can't say anything. Or another thing is, you're not saying anything because, well, I had my wrecks, so there's nothing I can say. I think that's a pretty poor reason to not intervene in a situation. And yes, the blood covers that sin and that sin. Creflo Dollar was right about that. However, at some point, you can't be so afraid of that you don't come and cry out and spare not about fraudulent activity in the church. And it is time for people to stand up. It's not just up to the people to blog about it on Facebook or Twitter or to make a YouTube video about it, right? At some point, leaders everywhere need to stand up and speak out against it. Because at this point, it's just plain old corruption. Let's call it out for what it is. It's corrupt. And it affects so much. It's affecting our families. It's affecting our black men. It's a no wonder that black men don't want to go to church. Listen, what is it? The church is what, 75% or more female dominated, women congregation. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of, walking into a church and seeing a bunch of women sitting there. That doesn't make me feel like it's diverse. It makes me, I don't know how to feel about that. Are you comfortable being a leader of a congregation that's 75% or more women? Are you comfortable with that? I'm not. And I don't even know what that's about. I mean, when I see that, I'm thinking to myself, do you see us as more easily manipulated? Do you see us as just weaker minded? Do you see us as too emotional to see through foolishness? And so you speak to that target audience. It's kind of starting to make me wonder about a lot now of why the silence or the absence of so many of our men is based, it's like deafening now. And we can't keep ignoring that lack of presence.